The old Honda Civic skidded across the boiling asphalt of Highway 86 deep in the heart of the Arizona desert. The sun, a blazing fireball hanging overhead, hurled searing rays onto the faded roof and dusty windshield. Jack Ramirez gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white, his left hand trembling despite the weary air conditioner humming cold breath into the cabin. Hot wind sliced past like invisible blades. On either side of the road, sand and dust spun into delicate whirlwinds among low shrubs and lonely cacti. The world stood still, so surreal, it seemed more like a painting, cracked, scorched, and silent. The Civic groaned a mechanical sigh. The fuel gauge had hit red 10 miles ago, and now the engine was sputtering. Jack veered off, letting the car glide onto the gravel shoulder before killing the engine. The motor fell silent, leaving only the faint ticking of cooling metal like embers hitting water. He leaned his head against the wheel. A bead of sweat traced its way down his temple, over the bridge of his nose, and dropped to the floor, 30 miles to the nearest gas station. No inns, no signs of life. But that wasn't what scared Jack. It was the rearview mirror. He'd checked it 10 times in the last 10 minutes. No cars behind, no headlights approaching, yet the feeling of someone drawing closer wouldn't let him go. Marcus never let traitors go. Jack reached for the glove compartment. A small orange pill bottle fell out its label, scratched beyond recognition. But he didn't need to read it oxycodone. Just one pill left. A lifeline. An escape. He didn't dare take it. Not now. Not when he might need a clear mind for what was coming, whatever that was. Outside, the wind shifted. A new scent slipped in through the cracked window. Burnt plastic creosote from desert shrubs, and something else, wild, metallic, faintly bloody. Jack pulled out a small worn piece of paper, a crumpled flyer he'd torn from a gas station wall 50 miles back. Cook wanted, cash only, no questions asked. Below it, a scrawled address, Coyote's Diner, Highway 86. He looked up. Like a cruel joke from fate, it was right there, just a few hundred feet ahead, a flickering neon sign cutting through the shimmering haze. A red coyote howling at a moon, barely illuminating the worn-out letters, Yayates. A diner, as if it had grown out of the desert itself. Jack stepped out of the car. The smell of plastic and scorched metal hit him. His worn combat boots crunched against the blazing gravel. Around him, silence pressed it in unnaturally. No cars, no birds, no wind, only heat and stillness. The diner stood alone, crumbling, forgotten by time. Rusted tin roof, cracked brick walls, windows boarded up. A dust-covered truck sat beside it as if it had been abandoned for years. Jack touched the door handle. Strangely cool, he pushed. The door creaked open, an old bell above it chiming with a metallic, broken sound. No one inside. No, that wasn't right. There was someone. An older woman stepped out from the back kitchen, stern-faced, sun-darkened Navajo skin, deep black eyes like bottomless wells. She wore a grease-stained apron and silver hair tied in a bun. Her hands, God, were covered in scars like someone who'd handled barbed wire her whole life. "We're closed," she said, without looking at Jack. I came about the job." Jack held up the paper. She looked at him for the first time, long and hard, said nothing. "Cash, no questions. Right?" he added, voice dry. "You running from something?" she asked, voice gravelly, like mountain stone. "You think anyone comes here for a vacation?" Jack gave a bitter laugh. A flicker of something crossed her face. Almost pity. "I'm Naomi. You cook. 5 years at Carmelita's, Tucson. Why'd you leave?" Jack clenched his bag strap. Back injury, then other stuff. Naomi nodded. She seemed to understand. Didn't ask for more, just pointed toward the back kitchen. "Get in!" Inside the kitchen gleamed under white fluorescent lights, completely unlike the diner's decaying shell. Stainless steel counters, industrial ovens, prep tables. The air smelled of grease, onions, burnt coffee. "Cash every night," Naomi said. "Sleep in the back room. Don't ask questions. Don't touch anyone. If the jukebox plays Coyote Blues, leave. Through the back. Don't look back." Coyote Blues. Jack frowned. "Track 7. But the jukebox only has 6, she said, offering no further explanation. Jack said nothing. Naomi tossed him an apron. It was heavier than he expected, like it carried someone's soul. "What's your name?" she asked, turning away. Jack Ramirez." Naomi paused at the doorway. turned to look at him one last time. "Remember this, Jack. The desert never forgets who owes it a debt." Then she vanished into the shadows. Jack stood in the white-lit kitchen, apron in hand, heart pounding. For the first time in weeks of running, he felt something like safety. But deep down, he knew this wasn't a place to start over. It was the end of the line for people with nowhere left to run. Jack stood still for a few seconds in the gleaming kitchen, clutching the old apron like it was the last lifeline pulling him back from a pit named the past. The soft hum of the cooler in the corner filled the air with a low, steady noise. He had never seen a kitchen this clean, especially not in a roadside diner that looked ready to collapse. Stainless steel sparkled, not a drop of oil in sight. Knives were lined up perfectly. The bamboo cutting boards didn't even have a breadcrumb. Naomi entered through the back door, carrying a jar of homemade spice mix. She placed it on the steel counter beside him. "House blend. No changing the dosage. No substitutions," she said, eyes fixed on him. "Got it. Looks clean, huh?" Jack nodded. "It's not for show," she said, turning toward the industrial fridge. "It's for survival." She opened the fridge and pulled out a vacuum-sealed tray of meat. The color wasn't anything Jack had seen before. Not red like beef, not white like chicken. It was almost black, with streaks of silvery veins glowing under the fluorescent light. Jack squinted. "What kind of meat is that?" Naomi slammed the fridge shut. "Don't ask. That's the first rule." The kitchen air grew heavier. Jack said nothing, watching her wrap the meat in wax paper and place it onto another tray. She used her bare hands, her hands still covered in scars, long and thin, like they'd been sliced by something sharper than any knife. "How many rules are there?" Jack asked, trying for some humor. Naomi looked at him with desert dry eyes. "3. Let me guess. Rule 1, don't ask about the meat." "Correct." "And Rule 2, don't let the customers touch you." Jack raised a brow. "What does that mean?" "Not everyone who touches you is still a person." Jack gave a shaky laugh, but Naomi didn't. Not even a smile. "Okay," he murmured. "And number 3. Naomi didn't answer right away. She walked over to the old jukebox in the corner of the dining room, a 60s relic with a foggy glass front and yellowed song list. 6 tracks numbered 1 through 6. Most of the titles were unreadable. "Rule 3, she said, "if the jukebox plays track number 7, Coyote, blues, leave through the back door. No hesitation, no questions. Don't look back." Jack stepped closer, examining the track list. "There is no track 7. "But sometimes it plays anyway," Naomi said. "And when it does, the night no longer belongs to humans." A shiver crawled up Jack's spine. He returned to the kitchen, tied on the apron. His back twinged as he bent down to open the knife drawer, an old pain echoing from his past years on the line at Carmelita's, then the injury, then the painkillers, then the addiction. The wind chime over the front door jingled a jarring sound in the silence. Naomi sighed. Shifts started. Jack peeked through the small service window into the dining area. The first customer had entered, a lanky man in a faded snakeskin jacket and thick sunglasses, despite the dim lighting. He took a seat at the counter like he belonged there, tapping his fingers rhythmically on the surface. Naomi didn't have to ask. The usual Mr. Kane. The man gave a slight nod, a flicker of a smile beneath the glasses, and Jack swore he saw more teeth than normal. Naomi turned back. Special, rare. Jack opened the fridge, pulled out a package of the black meat. His hands trembled slightly as he slit the seal. The smell hit him like a slap, wild, metallic, and strangely sweet, like the meat hadn't fully died. He placed it on the counter, sliced it open. It twitched. Not much, but enough. Jack stepped back. Just post-thaw muscle memory, Naomi said flatly. He didn't believe it, but he held it together. It placed the meat on a cast-iron skillet. The oil hissed. The meat curled, writhed like something being forced to die all over again. Smoke rose. The aroma filled the air, not the kind that made you hungry, but the kind that made your heart race, as if Jack's body sensed something wrong before his mind could. He sprinkled the spices exactly as Naomi had instructed, flipped the meat, plated it on a white enamel dish. Naomi took it out. Mr. Kane received it with a gloved hand. No fork, no knife. He bit into it like an animal. His amber-colored eyes shimmered as he looked back at Jack. The night dragged on, More customers came of all shapes and sizes, but all shared one thing: silence, unblinking eyes fixed on Jack. And every one of them ordered the same thing special, rare. A weathered woman with dark skin and a red scarf left behind an old silver coin. A pale-haired man spoke in a whisper like wind through canyon cracks. A boy no older than 10 came with his father, and Jack swore he didn't blink once through the whole meal. Cash stacked on the counter. Naomi counted, handed Jack a wad of 20s. Your pay. Jack took it. Real money. Smelling of blood, sweat, and secrets, but real. He stumbled back to the tiny room next to the walk-in freezer, just a folding bed, a bare bulb overhead, and peeling wallpaper. Jack dropped his bag, pulled out a photo Ellie, his daughter, grinning, wide, missing her 2 front teeth. He brushed a finger along the edge as if trying to remember who he used to be through her smile. Outside, the desert wind howled like a coyote's cry, or maybe just the wind. Jack turned off the light. But as sleep crept in, one thought clung to him. If that meat isn't from any animal, then what the hell is it? Night 2 began with a pot of stale coffee and a dull ache in Jack's spine. He awoke beneath the dim yellow glow of the ceiling bulb, his bones heavy and sore, like he had worked a full day's labor, though he'd only cooked for one night. As he opened his eyes, he immediately felt something wrong. Not pain, not nausea, not withdrawal paranoia. Something deeper, an invisible pressure like a hand squeezing his chest. Jack stepped out of the back room. Naomi was already in the kitchen pouring coffee, her gaze unchanged, calm, deep, and cold like moonlit water. Sleep well, she asked. Jack nodded, unsure if that was true. Is there something strange about this place, he blurted. Naomi poured more coffee. What do you think? It feels like everything's watching. Because it is. Jack didn't reply. He just tightened the apron strap and turned back to his station. The freezer hummed a low, steady note, like a sleeping beast dreaming. Near midnight, the front door opened, no chime. No one entered, but the jukebox, that dusty, silent relic in the corner, suddenly flickered to life. Its cracked glass lit up, colored lights blinking number keys clicking, though no one touched them. Jack stepped out of the kitchen, cautiously approaching the machine. A cold draft came from it, thin mist leaking from the speaker grill like a dying breath. The song list hadn't changed, 6 faded lines, unreadable titles, numbers 1 through 6. Then a click, a number lit up 7. Coyote Blues. Jack stepped back. Wind, he swore it was wind, blew through the dining room, and then music began. No melody, no drums, no vocals, just howling. A long, distorted wail like a wolf mourning under the moon. But lower. Slower, stretched out like an old cassette being played in reverse. It merged with a heartbeat, not percussion, but real heartbeat, sounds heavy and deliberate. Jack stumbled back. Naomi emerged from behind the counter, her expression no longer composed. Go, she said, moving toward him. Now. But track 7 is playing. Out the back door. Don't look back. Jack hesitated, but something in her eyes, not fear but desperation, pushed him into motion. He moved past the counter, through the swinging kitchen doors toward the back exit. His hand reached for the doorknob when the front doorbell rang. Not the soft chime from last night. This was a loud clang, a metallic crash like a fire alarm. Jack turned and saw 2 men enter. They weren't customers. No hunger in their eyes, no scent of old silver or strange cloaks. Just 2 muscular men in leather jackets, buzz cuts, eyes like blades, and the aura of killers. One had a tattoo of the snake coiled around a dagger on his neck. He glanced toward the kitchen and locked eyes with Jack. That's the bastard, he said in a thick southern drawl. Rico says hello. The other man pulled the gun from his coat. Naomi stepped out from behind the counter. You can't do this here. Step aside, Grandma, the tattooed one snapped. This place isn't for people like you. We won't be staying long, he smirked. Just here for a corpse. He shoved Naomi aside. At that moment, the music changed. The howling twisted into a growl, then something like laughter. But not human laughter, animal laughter, and many voices. All at once, Jack turned toward the kitchen window and saw something he shouldn't have seen. The customers had stood, all of them, and were silently approaching the kitchen, their heads tilted slightly, amber eyes glowing in the dark. Then, the sound of skin tearing. Not cloth, not shoes, human skin, being peeled away. One customer, thin, long-haired, slipped out of his own skin like removing a mask. His body twisted, bones stretched, claws sprouted from hands, a muzzle pushed out of his human face. The human skin dropped like a shed husk. Jack screamed and backed into the fridge. The tattooed man fired. The bullet hit the creature, but it only staggered. Then it roared a feral, guttural roar and charged. The diner turned into a slaughterhouse. Blood sprayed the walls, the doors, Jack's hands, screams, claws, bones snapping. Jack crouched, covered his head, eyes shut tight. Darkness fell. When he opened his eyes, silence, except for Naomi. She stood beside him, blood-stained, apron eyes, like land after an earthquake, shattered but still standing. "You're alive," she said. Jack didn't answer. "They would have killed you," she continued, "but the Skinwalkers chose to let you live." Jack panted, I don't understand." Naomi pulled a small pouch from her apron. From it she produced a tooth, a long yellowing canine like a wolf's, still radiating heat. "Take this," she offered. "They've caught your scent. This'll mask it for now." Jack took it. The tooth was hot like coal, but didn't burn. "You saw it," Naomi whispered. "You were here when Track 7 played. Now, you're part of this." Jack looked at his hands. Blood. Some of it human. Some not of this world. "Go," Naomi said, voice rasping, "while you still can." Jack stood, stumbled past the kitchen, avoiding the counter where they had once sat. The back door opened. Desert wind slapped his face. He didn't look back, just clenched the tooth and ran. Jack ran through the back door, sand crunching beneath his feet, the night's heat rising from the ground like a lingering curse. The sky was moonless, only stars, silent lights, indifferent to the horror behind the door. He stopped behind a dune, gasping, clutching the coyote tooth in his pocket. It was still hot, not like fire, but like a heart beating to a rhythm that wasn't his. Behind him, Coyote's diner sat silent, as if there had never been screams, gunfire, or torn bodies inside. A dream. A nightmare. No, Jack knew better. The dried blood on his hands and collar, the stench of iron and burnt flesh clinging to him like the smoke of a battlefield. A vibration. The phone in his pocket buzzed. Not a text to call. He pulled it out to the screen flashing Laura, 3 missed calls. He answered. "Hello." Jack Laura's voice was strained, a tremble in it, edged with panic. "Where are you? What's going on? You have to take Ellie. Right now. Get out." "Jack, do you even know what's happening? 2 men showed up at my house today. They didn't say names, just asked if Ellie was your daughter." Jack held his breath. "They're Marcus's men." "Oh, God, Jack, how could you drag her into this?" Laura's voice cracked, mixed with a sob. I never thought he'd find you. I used a fake name. I paid in cash. You thought your screw-ups wouldn't touch your daughter." Silence. Then Laura's voice softened barely. "Where are you?" Jack looked back at the diner. Its dim light still flickered through the back window. "Far," he said. "Very far." A strong gust swept by, carrying the scent of rotting meat and old silver. "Jack!" Laura's voice dropped, trembling. "Ellie said something strange just now." "Strange how?" "She said she dreamed of you, standing in a desert, surrounded by wolves. She said your eyes were glowing." Jack's stomach turned, and she said you gave her a tooth. Silence fell wide and sharp like a tear between 2 worlds. Jack whispered, "Don't let anyone know where you are. Don't talk to strangers. And Laura, don't let Ellie go outside at night." He hung up before she could answer. Back at the diner, Jack stood outside for a long moment. The back door was still slightly ajar, as if waiting for him. A trap, an invitation, a final chance. He stepped in. The blood had been cleaned, the walls white again like nothing had ever happened. No bodies, no trace. Only Naomi sitting at the counter holding a steaming cup of tea. "Well," she said, as if greeting a regular. "You came back." "I need money," Jack said bluntly. "I need enough to pay off Marcus, to make him leave my family alone." "A life doesn't come cheap," Naomi said, not smiling. "I'll work extra shifts. Do anything. Deliveries, clean up, butchering, as long as I get paid." Naomi poured more tea. "You really think working overtime here is a smart idea?" "I don't have a choice." She nodded slowly. "You can earn money here, but money from this place won't fix things out there." "Then give me another way. A deal. A bargain. Anything." Naomi stared at him, long and hard. her eyes no longer those of a cook or diner owner, but of someone who had lived too many lives, seen too many souls fall. Tomorrow night, she said, Marcus will receive an invitation from our friends. They'll offer him a contract, an exclusive product. Jack swallowed. I'm the product. No, she said, but you're the courier. Naomi pulled a photo from the drawer, color print, slightly faded, a head or something like one resting on a steel tray, its eyes still open, reflecting an amber glow. You just need to tell Marcus. You've found a source for specialty meat, expensive, secret, and the meat beats again when it meets the right person. Jack went cold, and after that, then it will send Marcus our regards, and your debt will be gone. Part of Jack screamed in protest. Another part, the dark growing part, felt relief. But Naomi added, the Skinwalkers won't forget. They won't forgive betrayal. And they've marked you. She pointed to his pocket, where the tooth was growing hotter like burning coal. They want you to come back. But if you ever truly leave this place, they'll come find you. Jack looked at his hand. The blood had dried, but the nails slightly longer than last night, the skin a little tighter. What am I now? He asked. Naomi stepped closer and looked him in the eye. You're the one they spared. Jack left the diner just before sunrise. Naomi handed him the keys to a car parked behind the lot, one of the two hitmans from the night before. Inside the trunk were several guns, a suitcase of cash, and a small silver bundle Naomi called a sacrificial offering. He didn't ask. He just started the engine and drove. Sand kicked up behind him. The diner faded in the rearview mirror. The sun crept over the horizon, and for the first time in years, Jack felt hope. But he also knew he had become something he could no longer fully control. The coyote tooth in his pocket kept pulsing, not to his rhythm, but to theirs. Dawn in Arizona is not gentle. It pours down like acid on a wound, pushing everything out of the shadows just to expose them under a harsh hospital white light. Jack drove the scratched-up Ford F-150 that had belonged to one of the dead hitmen heading toward Gallup. In the trunk, a suitcase full of cash, 2 guns, a Bowie knife, and the sacrificial offering Naomi had shoved into his hand without explanation. He hadn't dared to open it, not out of fear of what was inside, but of knowing. The coyote tooth still lay in his shirt pocket, pulsing to a rhythm of its own. Not to Jack's heartbeat, not to anything human. It was alive, and it was remembering. Jack reached the outskirts of Gallup by midday. A dusty little town, fading gas stations, run-down motels with broken signs, and a pawn shop selling everything from guitars to gold teeth. He picked a motel called Desert View, where the flickering vacancy sign only had 3 letters still lit. The owner, an old sun-worn man, didn't ask for ID. He just gave Jack a look, the kind you give someone who's clearly just passing through and you don't want to know why. Up front, the man said. Jack dropped a $100 bill on the counter. Room 8. The door lock barely worked. The sheet still carried the lingering smell of bleach and old cigarettes. Jack collapsed onto the bed, but sleep wouldn't come, not after everything he had seen. He turned on the TV, no signal. Checked his phone. Bars. 3 missed calls from Laura. 1 message, Jack. Call me. Something happened. He called. The phone rang twice. Jack Laura's voice was hoarse, like she hadn't slept. Where are you? Safe, for now. They came back. Jack closed his eyes. Different men this time, not like the ones from before. Looked more normal. But they asked for your real name. The old address. I lied. Said I didn't know you. And Ellie, she's okay, but last night she dreamed of you again. Again. This time, her voice caught. She said you were standing in the desert. Your eyes were glowing, and you howled like a wolf. Jack didn't respond. Jack, Laura said quietly, is something controlling you? He almost said yes, but swallowed it back. No, just everything's spiraling, but I'll fix it. Don't let her get dragged into this. You need to go. Leave now. You keep telling me to run, but we're back into hiding. How long until your past stops chasing us? Just this once, Laura. 1 more week. Give me time. I'll end it. Jack. Her voice turned cold. You don't have a week. Late afternoon, Jack visited a local bank. He placed about $5,000 in cash on the counter and handed over a handwritten note with Laura's account number. Transfer it as fast as possible. The teller eyed him, then glanced at the expired ID in her hand. This ID's no longer valid. Please, he whispered. It's for my daughter. It's her life. A moment of hesitation. Then the teller nodded and began typing. Just this once. As Jack stepped out of the bank, the sunset bathed the street in red gold light. On the roof of a building in the distance, he saw the silhouette of a dog. No, a coyote. It stood motionless. Staring at him, its eyes glowed yellow, and it smiled. Back at the motel, Jack vomited violently into the bathroom sink. His body was rebelling, not from food, not from stress, but from something else inside him. Instinct. Hunger. He pressed a cold towel to his neck, staring at himself in the mirror. His eyes were bloodshot, and for a split second he thought he saw a third eye flash open in the center of his forehead. His phone vibrated again. A message. Unknown number. Don't think money gets you out. I don't need your cash anymore. Ramirez. I want closure. Marcus. Jack threw the phone onto the bed. Outside, dusk fell like a sharp blade. Night. Jack dreamed. He stood in the middle of the desert, naked. Red earth beneath him. Sand whipping around like waves. Figures circled him. Not quite human, not quite beast. They were singing. A song without words. A rhythm of howls, groans, and throat-tearing screams. Jack looked up. Atop a rock stood a coyote. Its eyes blazed like twin lanterns. It opened its mouth, not to howl, not to bark, but to speak. You carry one of our teeth. Your blood has changed. Your breath is no longer clean. Where will you run now, Jack Ramirez? Jack woke up, drenched in sweat, the sheets soaked through. The coyote tooth had somehow fallen out of his locked backpack. It lay on his chest, still pulsing. Jack sat up and opened the motel window. The night outside was silent, too silent. No wind, street lights flickering. And then, a howl. Not near, not far, not an animal, but a calling from the desert. Jack clenched the coyote tooth in his hand. There was no doubt left. They had found him, and he was changing. Jack woke the next morning with the smell of dried blood in his nose. Not human blood. Not quite animal either. Something caught in between two worlds. He sat up, bare-chested, arms and legs covered in scratches. His fingernails had grown since the night before, thicker, harder, their edges curling slightly like claws. In the bathroom mirror, his eyes reflected a faint golden glow beneath the gray irises. There was no more doubt. He was changing. Jack rummaged through his bag, pulled out the empty orange pill bottle, shook it. No sound. The last pill, his final salvation, he'd tossed into the dark nights ago. Now all he had left was himself raw, unraveling, shedding in layers like a dying snake. He dropped onto the bed, breathing hard. In his shirt pocket, the coyote tooth still rested, but it no longer pulsed. It vibrated. A summons. A push. By noon, Jack bought a notebook and pen from a nearby convenience store. He returned to the motel, sat at the desk, opened the first page, and wrote, Dear Ellie. The first line trembled, but then the second, the third came like floodwater breaking through. He wrote about the journey, the mistakes, the wrong turns that had taken him further and further from her. No mentions of blood, no mentions of diners, no skinwalkers, just a father trying to carve out a final legacy for his daughter, something human enough to hold him together even as he unraveled. That night Jack left the motel. No destination, no plan, just instinct. He drove out of town toward the edge of the desert. Parked. Started walking. The night sky hung blank. The wind scraped across the sand like old claws. And then he saw her, Ellie, standing in the desert. White dress fluttering, dark hair wild in the wind. You shouldn't be here, Jack whispered, approaching. She looked up, but the smile, too wide, too many teeth, eyes, amber. Not Ellie, not fully. Daddy, she said, I found you. Jack stepped back. She kept smiling, then blurred like a reflection on water, and vanished. A dream? No, he was certain it was real. Tiny footprints remained in the sand. Jack returned to the motel, grabbed his phone, called Laura. Hello, she answered immediately. Is Ellie with you? Yes, she's sleeping. Why? Jack swallowed. She's okay. No sleepwalking. No changes. What the hell are you talking about? Laura snapped. Nothing. He hung up. Went to the bathroom, washed his face. Looked up. The mirror had cracked slightly, his reflection, eyes glowing gold. And behind him, two figures. Jack spun around. No one. His skin went cold. Late that night, Jack awoke to a howl, not from outside, inside his ears. like nerves vibrating in his skull. He opened the bag, pulled out the coyote tooth. It glowed faintly, not like a bulb, more like a firefly trapped in amber. A knock, 3 knocks measured, deliberate. Jack grabbed the knife, stepped forward, cracked the door open, chain still on. No one. Looked down. A little girl. Ellie? Again. Daddy, I'm cold. Jack trembled. You're not real, but I'm what you want to save most. Oh, aren't I? She looked up. Her eyes had no whites, only amber. Don't, Jack whispered. They said, if you come back, I get to live. The door shuddered. Jack slammed it shut, bolted the lock. The knocking turned to pounding, then scratching. Claws, not hands. The walls trembled. Footsteps above the ceiling. The window burst open, then slammed shut. A shadow zipped past. Jack panted, sweat pouring down his face. Call the cops. Say what? Hello, I'm being hunted by a wolf-shaped version of my daughter. He pulled out the coyote tooth and pressed it to his chest. It burned. And then everything stopped. Silence. Perfect suffocating silence. Jack took the letter he wrote to Ellie, folded it, slipped it into an envelope. On the front he wrote, read this when you're old enough to understand what your father feared and what he chose. He slid the letter into his coat pocket, picked up the phone, called Laura again. Jack, her voice was tight with worry. I'm going to end this. Jack, where are you? On the edge. Edge of what? He closed his eyes. Between being human and what's no longer human. The Red Dust Bar sat on the edge of Tucson, right beside a patch of wasteland and an abandoned gas station. Jack knew it from his worst days, the place Marcus used to call his second office. No cameras, no cops, and no escape route if things went wrong. Jack parked in front, engine still running. His hand rested on his shirt pocket where the coyote tooth still lay now, just warm like a charm, waiting to be activated. In his other pocket, a USB drive inside scanned images of the special meat from Naomi's diner. Jack didn't know what it really was, whether it came from an animal, a human, or something else entirely. But Marcus wouldn't care. He just needed to believe it would turn a profit. Jack stepped inside. The bar was quiet, just a few guys playing pool, and one man sitting at the far end of the counter. Marcus, still fat, still wearing sunglasses, and still like a hibernating snake in the middle of the desert. Jack approached. Marcus didn't turn around. Heard you've got something special. Jack sat down, slit the USB across the counter. Premium meat. Night-only menu. No questions about the source. Marcus smirked. I've heard that before from guys who ended up dead. But none of them ever took you to the source. Marcus opened the USB on a small tablet, swiped through the images. He stopped at one, a photo of that dark silver-streaked meat. The muscle texture like tree roots. His expression changed. It's real. Jack nodded. Try the special at Yote's Diner, but you can't buy it there. Only negotiate. The price? No money. A trade. Marcus raised a brow. You've lost your damn mind. Jack tilted his head. You were planning to kill me over 30 grand. I'm offering to let you live in exchange for my family's life. Generous, Marcus sipped his whiskey. But I don't trust you. Then try it yourself. Where? Tomorrow night. In the desert. Off Highway 86. I'll take you. One trip. Marcus chuckled. I'm not going alone. I hope you bring company. The next night, 2 black SUVs tore through the dust southwest of Tucson. Jack led the way. Marcus followed. In Marcus's vehicle were 3 others, a hitman, his personal chef, and a silent man built like a statue there for cleanup if necessary. Jack stopped the car at the spot where Yote's Diner had once appeared. Nothing but sand. Marcus got out, sneering. You brought me here to stargaze. Jack said nothing. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the coyote tooth, now burning like a living furnace. He placed it in the sand. The wind picked up. Not strong, but sharp, like razors. The air changed to smell. Iron, burning plastic, and old silver. In the distance a light appeared. Neon. The shape of a howling coyote rising from the sand. Yote's Diner flickered into view, even though the ground around it had never changed. Marcus froze. What the hell? Welcome, Jack said, where dinner begins. They walked in. The diner looked exactly as Jack remembered. Not a speck of dust. No music. Naomi stood behind the counter like she had never left. The feast begins, she said. Not cold, not loud. Just a quiet statement of destiny. Marcus sat, His 2 men stood behind him. "Special. Rare," Jack said. Naomi nodded and vanished into the kitchen. No one saw what she prepared, but minutes later, 3 plates of meat were served. Jack didn't eat. Marcus and his crew did. They devoured it like starved men. Only the silent bodyguard didn't touch his food. His eyes widened. He knew. When Marcus set his knife down, licking his lips, Jack stepped back. "You've eaten their flesh," Jack said. "Now they will come." "What?" Marcus shot to his feet. The lights snapped off. Then the growls, ripping guttural, rose from within the diners themselves. Marcus's men twisted, skin tearing, bones cracking, amber eyes burning bright. They weren't his men anymore, just skins. The howls exploded. Naomi was gone from the counter. "You lied to me," Marcus screamed. Jack backed toward the exit. "No," he said. "I brought you exactly where you were supposed to be." The creatures lunged. Jack didn't look back, only heard the spray of blood, the snap of bones, the screams turning into whimpers, and then the howling, joyful and triumphant, ancient. When Jack opened his eyes, he was sitting in the desert. Dawn had broken. No diner, no blood, just the coyote tooth in front of him. Next to it, a suitcase full of cash, and a handwritten note. "The debt is paid, but in return you belong to us." 1 year later, summer arrived in Utah with dry winds and pale sunlight. In a small town called St. George, Laura lived quietly with Ellie in a rented house, tucked away at the edge of a residential area where no one asked about the past, and everyone pulled their curtains shut precisely at sunset. Ellie, now 9, no longer asked about her father. But at night she still drew pictures, filled with red sand, cold moons, and wolves with human eyes. Laura hid those drawings. She didn't tear them up, didn't burn them, just shoved them deep into a drawer, the same way she had buried the name Jack Ramirez from her contacts and from her nightly prayers. But then one morning, before the sun had a chance to cast its first light through the curtains, Ellie ran into her mother's room, clutching a wrinkled brown envelope. "Mom, this was under my pillow." Laura took it. On the front scrawled handwriting spelled 2 clear words. For Ellie, read when old enough to understand. Her heart tightened. She opened the letter. No sound, no breath, only words. "Dear Ellie, your father has done many wrong things, some too wrong to ever undo. But I'm trying not to become what the darkness wants me to be. There were times I thought hiding would be enough. But the truth is, darkness doesn't have to hunt people. It only needs them to be afraid. And I was afraid. But you, Ellie, you must not be. If you see a tooth, a pair of golden eyes, a shadow in a dream, run. But if you can't run, own it, because my blood runs in you. And that blood is no longer entirely human. Live true to the human part of you, the part you've still held on to. Because if you don't, the desert will remember, and it will come to reclaim what it once spared. With love in whatever shape I wear, Dad." Laura's hands trembled as she folded the letter. No sender, no postmark, but the handwriting, the scent of the paper, the chill up her spine. Undeniably Jack. That night Ellie dreamed again. She saw herself standing in the desert. On top of a hill her father stood, wearing a black coat, eyes glowing like headlights, a silver knife in one hand and a wolf tooth in the other. Behind him stood a pack of beings, tall, lean, silver-furred with human eyes. "You're not ready," Jack said. "But when you are, come find me." He raised his hand and placed the tooth in Ellie's palm. Because the desert never forgets its descendants. Hundreds of miles away, deep in Arizona, a dusty old diner lit up for the first time in months. The neon Coyote sign blazed, this time with all letters glowing. Coyote's Diner. A man sat behind the counter, his face hidden in shadow, but his apron was stained with grease, his hands marked with scars. The door opened. A new customer stepped in. "Special," Rare, the customer said. The man behind the counter turned, smiling. His eyes shone gold like the desert at dawn. "Always," he replied, voice deep, raspy. "Jack Ramirez, no longer the man running, now the one guarding the border between man and beast, between this world and the one on the other side."